Beverly, how are you?
Hello? Is that working? I was asked to say a few words to you today because I wrote a book about Francis Marion. It's a novel. I had wanted to write about him ever since I read that passage that I'm sure most of you know by Major Otto Williams of Maryland, in which he gives us an eyewitness account of Marion during his first days when he, with only some 20 followers, he arrived to join the Army of the South with, at that time, General Gates. For those of you who don't know that particular passage, let me read you just a little bit of it that describes Marion and his men. He had very few followers, distinguished by small leather caps and the wretchedness of their attire. Their number did not exceed 20 men and boys, some white, some black, and all mounted, but most of them miserably equipped. That really caught my attention because I was quite aware of the great issue about arming the slaves, the order to General Lincoln as the British mounted their third attack, that time by land and sea, that he was expected to defend the city with what he had at hand. Put it in writing, too. People felt very strongly about it. And the fact that shortly thereafter, here comes Marion with his men, some white, some black, all of them equipped. Maybe not well equipped, but equipped. And all mounted on good horses. The major doesn't say that, but to keep up, he would have to be, I know about horses, so I just put that in myself. That to me just spoke volumes about what kind of a man Francis Marion was, and I wanted to write about it. It is a standard literary device. If you're going to write about a hero, it's nice to write from the second person's point of view. That way the hero isn't always bragging on himself. But to find the right second person, it must be someone who is with that hero at all the important events in his life. And sometimes that is a prohibitive sort of thing, but not with Francis Marion. I have written that book from just such a person who was with him at all the important events in his life, and is certainly a very deserving person. This book is written from the point of view of Oscar, and it is titled The Fox and Me. Oscar, in his opinion, as he saw it, he and Francis Marion were intended way back when to walk life's path together. It happened way back when their two grandpappies both arrived here in this wild land full of white men who didn't speak their language, red men who didn't want them here, storms and swamps and problems. And they both came here because they were being persecuted. They came here as a result of a fearsome persecution. And they stayed here because they had no place else to go. Master Benjamin, neither one of them was intended for a hard life. Master Benjamin, he was born to be a gentleman, live in a fine house, had servants to wait on him, had land and riches. But his countrymen took his land and his riches and threatened to burn him alive if he didn't leave. It had to do with how he worshipped his God. He worshipped the same God as they did, but for some reason they thought he didn't worship it right. In fact, he even had a letter from a priest that told him if he ever came back to France, quote, Your miserable body shall be consumed by fire, and your impious ashes scattered on the winds of heaven. He read that once a year to the family to remind them. Oscar's grandpappy, he lived in a palace with slaves to wait on him. Oscar's grandpappy was an Asante, and the Asante were a warrior tribe, a rich tribe. And that grandpappy was not just a warrior, he was a war counselor. The king in Kamasi, the king of the Asante himself, had given him a praise name, Natoni, which meant hero. But one day, the Fanti came to talk to the king. A Safo fly-wagon Fanti. And they said, what we, instead of fighting each other, what we need to do is combine, ally, and then we can drive the British back into the sea. And that sounded good to the king, not to Natoni, but to the king. So off they went, and sure enough, as soon as they met up with the British, it was a trap. The Fanti turned on them, and a lot of warriors were captured that day. Not many killed. The British didn't want to kill them, they wanted to sell them. They were prime stock. And of course, the Fanti didn't want them killed, because if you killed them, they would just go on up to their ancestors. But if you sold them into slavery, they would suffer all the days they were on this earth. And so it was that Oscar's grandpappy came here, victim of a fearsome persecution, and along came Master Benjamin at the slave market and bought him. But just that one didn't have much money. And together they began to work the land, this land where they had found themselves. Miss Judith, she was right down there in the dirt working with them, on her knees. It was hard work. Not all of the Huguenots who came actually survived, as I'm sure you know. But little by little, the French tribes, they were affable, hard-working people. And they shared each other's grief and joys and helped each other out. And little by little, things got better. Mrs. Judith didn't have to be down there in that dirt digging. And sooner or later, she had a little boy. And they named that baby Gabriel, because that was a real popular name in that family and that tribe. Then in time, Tony, that's how they heard Natoni, Tony, he found himself a woman. And they had a little baby boy. And Tony named him in the Asante way. He named him Akwakwasa, which means firstborn who was arrived on a Sunday. Of course, it wasn't really Tony's firstborn, but it was the firstborn here in Carolina. People didn't really know how to say that name. They called it Archie, they called it other things. But old Master Benjamin, he was just so pleased to see Tony like putting down a root, and he was making a little life for himself. And he thought that little boy was just proof of it. And he called him the young'un, and was always asking, where's the young'un? What's the young'un doing? Have you seen that young'un? Unfortunately, in French, that is le jeune. So by the time that boy was half grown, everybody was calling him Jude. And that ain't no name for an Asante warrior. But no matter, Grandpappy saw to him that his boy knew his blood was Asante, that he knew Asante wisdom. He taught him some Asante warrior ways. He even made a talking drum. Of course, he said he wasn't no drummer. The drummers are very important people among the Asante. But he wanted his boy to hear the voice of the talking drum as it floated up through the trees. Well, those two boys, they grew. Gabriel grew, June grew. Gabriel married, and he had five, as probably all of you know, 5 boys and a girl. Except, as you probably all of you know, that boy, the last one, the 5th one, he was a real tiny little baby. Not kind of sickly, not too well. His father said they didn't need to buy any cradle. Any good beer stein would do. One of his uncles said he'd seen a big lobster. But no matter, the boy in time did get to be healthy and active. He just never got to be very big. And then, of course, June also found himself a woman. And when he was going to have a baby, she was going to have it. But you know how that is. And June was thinking, you know, there's no point in giving a child a name that people are going to misspeak all his life. So he decided to give him a name that was suited to this world, and he went and he talked with a French preacher man. Because as you know, names mean something in any language. And so June chose names, and sure enough, he had a baby boy. And he named him Oscar, because that means divine spirit. And that's a good name for an Asante warrior. Grandpappy liked that name. In fact, he liked it so much that June gave all his boys names that had to do with spears, like Edgar and Orval, names like that. All except, of course, the one little girl. They named her Phoebe, because they liked the sound of that name. And it means wise woman. Grandpappy wasn't real sure about that. And the story goes on from there. It is always a mechanical problem. It is, I think, I have found writing historical novels and romances, best to follow the history as closely as you possibly can. Because in my experience, if you can get to the history of what really happened, the closer you get, it is more amazing than anything you could ever make up. To me, Francis Marion epitomizes this truth. He wasn't a very big, strong man. He was in his 40s. He was a right planter of very moderate means. And yet he became, to paraphrase the subtitle of John Orr's marvelous biography, the man who saved the American Revolution. And today we are all gathered here to remember him and honor him and Oscar. And it is a real pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.